Hey geeks, it's that time. I know it's a little bit late, but it always is with me. It's time for me to give you my top 5 August baits. And guys, you know I love fishing this time of year. You know I catch them. So let me show you what I do different than everybody else. So let me tell you why I fish these baits that I'm about to show you. I love to fish Highlands Reservoirs in the summertime, right? So these really steep, as you can tell, I mean, from behind me here, this is a bank we've just kind of pulled in to get some shade on because it's hot today. But they're Highlands Reservoirs, they're super clear. They stay a little bit cooler because the thing about clear water is it takes longer to heat but cools faster because it doesn't have a lot of dissolved particulates in the water to help hold heat. These aren't generation lakes. They are flood control lakes that I fish. So there's not a lot of current. It's pretty much standard current year round, right? Unless there's a big rain. So all that being said, most of the time by August, we start to see a thermocline start to form. Now, a thermocline begins to push the bass off of the bottom areas that they want to be on, because below it, it's low to, I won't say no oxygen, but it's a little more uncomfortable and tougher for them to breathe. At the same time in August, the Shad Fry are now beginning to gather up in huge balls, huge schools, and so you begin to get these bass that really begin to feed, because everything where it may have been 30, 40, 50 feet deep in June and July, it's now forced to be 25 and 20 foot deep. And the cover, or the structure primarily, that they like to be on, since the water is about 12 to 15 foot clear, they don't generally go to the banks, because you can see, I mean, there's a lot of wood over here. That wood really provides little to no security for your bigger bass, because it's not that deep right there, and it's completely clear down to, like I said, about 12 to 15 feet. So the bass have a better opportunity of pushing those Shad Fry and those shad up to the surface of the water. And we begin to get an incredible topwater bite in some really cool little bottlenecked areas. And so that is the first bait, the Head and Spook. Now guys, you've heard me talk about this, and I can't stress to you enough, guys, there's not a magic bait. Look, I get it. You might be working a top water, but pay very close attention to the water, to the conditions. That top water is working. I guarantee if you bring that bait out here, yeah, you might catch one or two, but I'll smoke you with this. And the reason why is because this has a very wide action. I even had somebody comment, and I don't even understand this comment, because they said, oh, there's no need to tie a loop knot because it's the action of the bait. Yes, a loop knot allows this type of bait to get a very much wider action because of the smooth nose. It also eliminates the need for a split ring, which is heavier than the loop knot itself and won't pull the nose down. So it actually helps you get action. Now, not on every bait. I'm sure whoever commented didn't pay any attention that I was saying on stuff like on snub-nosed baits, like the Sexy Dog or the Sammys. No, don't tie a loop knot. It's a waste of your time. But on slick nose, you're going to get a wider walking action, less movement toward you, which you want to keep them out there over the bass. But this is one of my favorites right here. This is the Head and Spook. This is the junior, and it's a one knocker. But this is the deal right here. This is Pearl Melon. This is a one knocker, and I'm telling you, it has got a very unique sound when it's coming through the water. It will call bass up from that 20, 25 foot, especially when you've got 10 to 15 foot visibility, especially, which I didn't do right here, is when you tie a loop knot again on these baits. Next on the list, man, you got to have some sort of popper. And let me tell you, this is a popper with a bill, the Prank. And like I said in a short, if you haven't seen it, it ain't no joke. Let me tell you, this thing right here has paid off so many times already this year. If you haven't seen the fishing videos, you need to go check it out. What's great about this, number one, I love this color. It's translucent and you can pop it. Now, it takes a little bit of getting used to because of the bill and the way you pop it. I like a light pop, especially in the clear water. So I like to maybe pop it up a little bit so it spits more than it bloops. Now, after I do that, I give it a couple of quick reels, and this thing has got some amazing action. Again, I refer you to the short. Amazing action. I mean, it really wobbles when it's in the water. And so many times when they won't commit to that top bite, when you reel it, they swallow. Next up is a small Flutter Spoon. Now, depending on where you're at and what type of shad or bait fish you've got, match the hatch, okay? Like I said, here we begin to see the small Shad Fry move out, and that's what the bass begin to feed on. Now, not all the time. There's still plenty of the big shad out there too. But this is a 4-inch Nichols Lures Flutter Spoon, and I love to put a crank wrap on it. Now, if it's a bright bluebird sky, I'll crank wrap both sides. But if it's a day that's a little bit cloudy or it's first thing in the morning, I'll only put a crank wrap on one side because I still want a little bit of flash. Man, they go crazy, because what ends up happening is those bass will group up into wolf packs. And so when you get in an area, there'll be, 8, 10, 15, 20, I mean, even more in a group. And when you see that, you throw this in. Even if they don't bite it, it fires them up. And then we throw in the next baits that I'm going to talk about. That brings us to the minnow style baits. Now, guys, right now, I'll tell you, on a lot of the lakes before the 1st of August, before those Shad Fry get out there, your 4s and your 5s are going to be your money. Now, this head, this is a Damiki head. This is a Damiki Armor Shad. This is the big version. This is the 4 or 5 inch. I can't remember, but trust me, they've done work. They come in a lot of different sizes. Good looking minnow style bait. Some people could just call them a jerk bait. That's fine too, soft jerk bait. As a matter of fact, something else that I love, a Caffeine Shad, which is a soft jerk bait. But let me tell you, when those bass get out there and they're breaking, they're pushing those shad up to the surface, this is money. You can cast it a long way. I put an 1/8 ounce because I want it to drop like a wounded, dead, or dying bait fish. Again, clear water, I use ghost shad, but this is a killer bait when they're busting. Some of the others that have produced killer for me this year has been the Yum forward-facing sonar shad. Yeah, guys, I do use forward-facing sonar to do this, but I learned to do this a long time ago before forward-facing sonar ever was even a thought in somebody's mind. These are great. They come in a ton of different colors, and you can see the action. Don't overwork these baits when you're throwing them. Big key. These are two new ones that I've just discovered this year. I want to give a big shout out to Rabid Baits. They actually gave me this pack. Guys, you got to send me some more of these. Like, really, they have been killer. This is called the Fox Shot. I don't remember the name of this. I'll put it in the description, of course. And they put hair in the tails of their baits. Super natural, super realistic in these clear lakes I fish. Next up, man, this right here, they make these in the 3.3 and the 4.5, which is what these are. These are the Flatsided Shad by Netbait. Last but not least, you're not going to believe it, guys, it's hard to beat a gulp minnow. This is the bigger one. It's been working on some of the lakes. Some of the others, when they already get out there, I think this is the 4 4-inch, you want to drop down to the 3-inch. And a bass just busted right beside of us. Anyway, but believe it or not, man, this thing has caught me some good size this year. Now, this is my head of choice, guys. It comes down to either angler tungsten or queen tackle. Queen tackle, a lot of times I use for my bigger heads. Angler tungsten I use for my smaller heads. 90% of the time, if there's no wind, there's no current, I'm using an 1/8 or a 1/4. And you know, I love these tungsten heads. They show up on live scope, and that's what I like to put in most of my minnow baits. Now let's talk about swim baits, okay? So I love the Damiki Armor Shad paddle tail. You want to talk about a finesse style swim bait. Look at this little thing right here. This is bad to the bone. Look how soft it is. So when they start chasing those small shad fry, this can be money. Team it up with that angler tungsten head and throw it on their heads. So that's where I go with my finesse swim baits. Next up is going to be an underspin with a Ramsey's bait, 3-inch, 3.5, 375. I don't remember. You can tell this thing has literally had the eyes beat out of it. I've caught a ton of fish on this. That just goes to tell you how durable they are, as you can tell. And of course, that is a Tennessee River Bling by Ledgehead, one of my favorite underspins out there. These are great when they're in the balls of shad. Throw this in there, that shad will part, and it just looks like a curtain opening up to feeding time for those bass. Again, another Ledgehead with a Ramsey's bait on it. This is Ghost Shad, and it's probably my go-to clear water color. Now, this is a 6/0 hook. Don't get the 5. Don't get the 5. This is a 5 to 6-inch swim baits, 6/0 hook. Trust me, comes back just a little bit farther, doesn't impede the action. This is a little bit bigger, and I know we talk about the shad and the shad fry, but there's still bigger shad out there. And what's great about this, it's kind of the same concept of the spoon. You can throw this out there, you can get them fired up, they'll start chasing it. If they hit it, but they miss it, pick up one of those little jerk baits that I showed you, or one of those little minnow baits, and follow up. And trust me, you'll get your arm jerked off. You know it's BF dub season, big freaking worm time. This is when it's hot. You're throwing it out there, you're dragging it, you're setting it, you're moving it 2 inches, letting it set. I love curl tails, I love straight tails. You know, Yum makes several different versions that I like. Forgive me, there's a tournament that's just blasting off. I love my straight tails when I'm kind of in open water. You know, not big rock, but you know, I'm throwing shaky heads, or I'm dragging around some, you know, chunk rock, you know, maybe about the size of your fist, that sort of stuff. Sparse rock. That's when I like my straight tails in clear water. Now, I love a curl tail around sparse brush, floating brush. And I'll tell you why. Standing timber. Something that the tail's not going to necessarily get wrapped up on the brush with. The reason why is because you have a little bit of action, and when it comes down, and around here, there's plenty of floating brush with open spaces below it. So when that ribbon tail drops, and I like a ribbon tail, not a curl tail or any sort of hook, got to be a nice inline, nice tight worm, okay? And when that ribbon tail falls by, they cannot resist it when it comes out of that brush down into their face. That's my favorite worm. Now jigs, I love my jigs and I love dragging, but since the thermocline has pushed them up, we're gonna talk about a little different jig. When I talk about jigs this time of year, I'm talking about hair jigs. That's right, marabou and the big bucktail. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because little bitty for the shad fry, big one for the shad, right? So you'll notice I do a little something different. I don't do it all the time. It's condition based, right? And how active they are. If I throw out there, and sometimes guys, when they're swinging and missing at baits, don't always think it's because it's got too much action. Sometimes You need a little more action to cause them to reaction strike. So with a hair jig, every once in a while, I'll put a rage tail crawl on it and give me a little bit of extra action. And a lot of times that seals the deal. That's a bucktail. If it's sunny, slick, calm, no. When the shad fry are out though, and they're chasing those tiny fry, pull out the marabou. The marabou is killer. And if you can find those tiny little grubs, I'm telling you, when they're chasing those shad fry, these things are money. All right, geeks, that's what I like to throw in August. I hope I gave you a little bit of insight and gave you a little bit of knowledge, because I'm gonna tell you, all you pond anglers out there, these lakes, if they're clear, are just like your ponds. So if you're throwing bottom bouncing stuff and you're not getting bit, it's a thermocline. I know everybody tells you that those small bodies of water, that you want to start dragging stuff on the bottom during the hot days of summer and looking for that deep stuff. But if that thermocline starts to push those bass up, and it will form in ponds, you need to be thinking about them in a more suspended manner. Soft jerk baits are your friend. All right. As always, questions and comments in the comment section below. You guys know I love to talk about fishing with you, and I mean that, man. I say it in every single video. I wouldn't waste my breath on it if it wasn't true. Let's talk some fishing. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you guys ring that bell, man. Watch these videos. Listen, I'm just a normal guy like you. Everything that I've got is because of you guys, not because of me. I'm nobody special. I am nobody special. I am one of you. Don't think because I've got a beautiful new Camus that I had anything to do with it. It was each and every one of you daggone stinking geeks out there that has done this for me and allowed me to live this dream. Thank you. And as always, you geeks rock.